Hey, what's up guys, it's your boy Patience. I decided to come at you guys with a little new one. So in this one I want to talk a little bit more about stuff that's in the verse and stuff that's not in the verse and stuff that I would like to see brought back into the verse. So I'm just going to go straight in with this one. So if you notice, when we run around with our backpacks, if we're wearing heavy armors, we're able to carry backpacks, guns, sidearms, medical guns, and even the multi-tool. This includes ammos, etc, etc, etc. I think this is an overbuff of not just our avatars, but activities within the verse, stuff that I think needs to be regulated ASAP, guys, because if you ask me, it just doesn't make any sense at all. It makes more sense to wear heavy bags on medium armors and maybe little armors when doing escapades. If you're going to wear heavy bags on heavy armors, and it's only going to be the heavy bags, because carrying all sorts of tools and items with that or in that bag, it's gonna weigh the character a bit too much, because you got to think about maneuverability as well as traversing, guys. Taking that into consideration, you kind of want to think about guns. What kind of guns is this individual going to carry? They're going to be sidearm, or is it going to be a back? Is it going to be an automatic? But going as far as to carry, the full array of weapons kind of doesn't make any sense. Obviously, nerf and buff of own guns, creating my own gun the way that I want to create it, and not the way that I'm told to create it within the verse. The difference between metals, plastics, wood, etc. Just by looking at these things, I create 3D objects within my time as well, and I use certain specific values or particular values in certain instances to ensure that my materials look just as they should do, not just for my own liking, but how they do in real life. This way I can tell roughly the durability of goods simply just by looking at them. This is how it is in real life. If you look at wood, there's different versions of wood that can indicate just how efficient or how enduring that piece of material may or may not be. And you can even liken it to another piece of material. Would be more efficient in durability if you was to put force against it, or as to putting force against glass. You might say, depending on the kind of glass that you're using, you're not going to try and apply pressure onto it, because it will shatter, it will smash. Wood's not necessarily going to shatter and smash, but it does have a durability range that you more than likely don't want to test. Taking that into consideration, you have metal and you have plastics. So looking at certain elements helps individuals identify just how durable a lot of these items may or may not be, and having that information and that knowledge gives one the kind of notion to say how they would prefer to have their items specifically made. Like, for instance, I love the beer ring, the P4 AR. Now, if I come to find that its durability is not all that good, or it's not so reliable, then I'm likely going to want to change its not necessarily its structure, but its embodiment. Maybe encase it in a better material so I don't get so much of that overheating effect, or maybe I'm going to want to use like maybe Alienware, so I can hold fire for a little bit longer. AKA now I'm able to use larger mags, shoot in longer rounds with less kickback, etc, 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 rather than the blueprint method. I think this method would be the best way to go. Reason being is because it's a little bit more realistic, guys. Physics needs to be make a little bit more sense. Weight, for instance, heavy armor whilst carrying the under gravity overload circumstances. So using heavy armors, again decked out to the max, but going on to another planet or another world that has more gravity than Earth. Earth has 1g gravity, the moon has 0.1, but another world might have 5g or 1.2, 1.25, maybe 2. So that's double the weight when you think about it that way. So you got double the weight of your your body weight, and you got double the weight of your heavy armors, including the weight that's in the bag on top of your heavy armor. Everything's doubled. So you got to think maneuverability in that instance is going to be a lot harder, unless we're going to start putting mechanical parts on our armors. It kind of just does not make much sense at the moment. These are things I would like to see tackled, because like I was trying to say before, both all three, Stanton, Nyx, and Pyro, all function and play exactly the same. I don't feel like I'm testing any different mechanic in any different region. I would like to see more physics. I would like to see visual effects and sound effects, maybe even an economy. A lot of these things are missing, and they're still missing because I feel like I'm just playing a gigantic expansion of Stanton rather than I guess you could say a persistent universe that's a test, because technically both the PTU and the PU are kind of like a test piece of content. So these are things that I would like to kind of work on, see worked on rather. Star Citizen at the moment is kind of like Pokemon, for the fact that it's very RPG like. I don't want to see health bars or health points, and I don't want to have that kind of state of mind where that's a belief. If I bang my elbow, then my energy is going to go down like 50 points, and I can actually see the energy bar. It's a bit too 90s, 80s retro, guys. I do know that Star Citizen is futuristic, 900 years in the future, and it's replicating kind of like a retrograde kind of format. At least that's the notion or the intention. But going as far as to give energy bars and health bars, if you ask me, is a bit too far, guys. So that's something that I would like to see reworked. I'm not sure if that's something that will be reworked, but it's something that most certainly was pitching for pretty strongly, might I add. There are no medium-sized salvage ships. Obviously you got the Vulture and you got that other big one, and working in those ships are very bothersome and tiresome, but there's no medium-sized ship. I don't think there should be price caps with these ships. If you find a piece of material that's worth salvaging, very valuable, then you have a good day. The more you play, the more experience you can get, rather than the first person gets the best jobs. Right now the job advertisements in the piece of content is not good enough, if you ask me, because a lot of people are saying that they love salvaging, but they go and do other missions with other ships because it pays better and it pays faster, with better presentations and a lot more thought in mind as to how a person makes loot and why they're making that loot. I think it would be I think it would be a lot easier to tackle how that player is going to create an affordable future for himself when talking of profit wise. How is this done? So again, experience. So, compositions. If you fly into a world with a ship, you gotta take your engines into consideration, the fuel output. If your fuel's not compatible with the composition of this world or this planet, then you're gonna have a disaster on your hands. Maybe it boosts your ship, buffs your ship, so you fly a lot faster, a lot more efficient, you save a lot more energy, and you can use your fuels a lot better, a lot longer. These kind of things are what I'm talking about, guys. Compositions against fuels. Ships like the Starfarer would be at an advantage here because they have changeable tanks. You could change your fuel on the go, which would be pretty darn neat. I personally think so. That's something I think should be looked into, guys. Something I would like to see brought into the verse in either one of those star systems that we may play and test. Medical is something that I would like to see evolve. At the moment, you'd be wearing these clunky armors, you pierce yourself in the arm and you're just functional again. I would like to see something a little bit more intuitive. Like I was saying, if I was to create 3D characters, and I do it on a basic level. I'm not professionally employed at the moment by any kind of 3D company, character design or 2D, but I still work on portfolios so that I can showcase my work when and if I can. I even have a YouTube channel where I showcase my work, and though it's very kind of limited to a degree because a lot of my work, or some of my work, is not copyright, but the ones that are copyright and for what I am able to show, I do showcase on that channel. My point behind this is when I'm creating a character, I would create a body mesh. I would structure that body mesh to resemble a human, of course. Then I rigify that mesh so it moves and functions like a realistic human, right the way down to the hair strands, and then I present it in my portfolio. In a professional piece of content like Star Citizen, I don't expect to see the exact same kind of workflow. I expect to see something a hell of a lot more technical, especially when I've gone out and I've bought myself something similar to like that of a 5090 or 6090 as I'm seeing advertised now. And then you got the memory sticks, you got storage systems, you got CPUs, you got motherboards, airflow supplies, all this stuff, guys. We don't go out and spend an arm and leg on this stuff just to kind of, you know, experience what it's like playing with dummy models that I can create in my bedroom at any given darn time. What's my point behind this? Medical. You have the mesh, the body mesh, you have bones, you have artery systems, veins, and organs. All these things play a crucial role in each and every single one of our lives. This is next gen material. I would like to see next gen operations going on here, in honesty, rather than your simple kind of Call of Duty style and format approach when dealing with medical injuries. How do we as players approach this? We could take up actually learning how to medically surgically repair an individual, which would be beneficial for us in our real lives. Obviously there's only so far you can go with it. There's only so much things you are allowed to do to another person if you're not qualified anyway, but doing basic level tasks in order to achieve basic level results, I think would be very beneficial and crucial for your general knowledge and underachieved person. But that's something that to be taken up in debate, not just amidst the community of Star Citizen, but possibly even professionally as well. But that's something to be taken into consideration for the game, because I reckon it shouldn't be a game, something similar to that of more related to of a simulator. Many jails and ships need insurance, obviously. What I was trying to say before, simply trying to state that if I die and I come back, I've got all my armors and my weapons and all that stuff. I think that's incredibly absurd, unless I insure my goods, which in any case, if I do, then I go back to my lockers, I get my goods, and I put them back onto my embodiment, and I get back onto my go house. Same for my ships. If I lose my ship, I want to ensure that my ship is insured, so that everything that I had docked within my ship comes back with my ship. That is something that I think is very beneficial and crucial. This is why you make money in the verse. You want to use your money. There's no point in dying and coming back with all your goods free, randy dandy. It just doesn't make sense, and that's not a piece of test material that I think is very much so relevant. But if we are going to go that far, then we pay for the insurance to ensure that that criteria, I guess I'll go for, is actually functional and working, and that we're all satisfied with that kind of that function. So bullet holes create blood leaking. If I shoot you in your arm, you're gonna bleed from your arm. If I shoot you in your leg, you're gonna start bleeding. I would like to see real physics, real blood simulation as well. I think that would create a more realistic environment, and something to be a little bit more, that would make the verse a little bit more fun. And reactions to being hit or wounded. At the moment, like I said, if you've got the Reaper gun and you're shooting someone with it, they don't set a light, they don't burn, they don't scream out, they're not in agony. And I've had that gun beaming at someone for a while, and even when they died, I kind of kept my finger on the trigger for a little while longer, because I didn't know the person died, because I didn't see any kind of reaction to someone going through pain or coming to a near-death situation. These are animations that we do see in New Age titles. We're getting into like better ragdoll effects, but there's something that I would like to see stepped up, especially in this piece of content, and I think a lot of us would actually enjoy seeing that a lot more than a lot of the stuff that's actually in game at the moment. They did say that they're going to work on ragdolls, and we are seeing better ragdolls, but I think it could be a hell of a lot better, guys, especially taking that medical stuff into consideration. If you're taking it into consideration, it could have opened up many doors, like forensics. You got Dexter. Dexter was one of my favorite TV shows, and starred Dexter Morgan, and he's a blood spatter guy. Blood tells him a story. You can follow blood, and you can investigate a lot better. That opens up a room for a lot of venues. I'd like to go over that a little bit more, but not now, unfortunately, but at a later date. If you like, you can try to remind me so we can go over that a bit better. Also, wearing light armor, shot in the chest, your heart is likely to skip a beat, making you faint, most likely die, depending on the range and the strength of the opposing weapon. Medium armor may protect you better from death, but you may still possibly faint, whilst heavy armor will more than likely protect you from fainting, from a skipped heartbeat, etc. Realistically, effects in information from the effects of information from the bullet or forceful attack bruise would be a good start. So what I'm trying to say here is, obviously, as simple as it was, if you're in a light armor and you get shot in the chest by, let's just say, a shotgun, your chest is likely going to skip, your heart is likely going to skip a beat. If you're in medium armor, again, your heart likely will skip a beat, depending on the range of where the projectile was fired in order to hit you. Heavy armor, you're probably not going to get a hit, a skipped heartbeat, but you're probably going to be sent flying. In the other two cases, you're not only going to get a skipped heartbeat, but you also get sent flying. This is likelihood. So I would like to see these kind of physics put into the game, information of a certain particular round, that once it hits you, wherever it hits you, it actually has an effect within that region. So if you're shot in your knee, if you're shot in your groin, if you're shot in your chest, if you're shot in your neck, if you're shot in your head, if you're shot in your stomach, your gut, if you're shot in your back, everything creates an effect, and everything has like an equation applied to it. This makes things a little bit more believable and a little bit more realistic. Again, if you're not wearing any armor and you have no protection at all, then that bullet is going to penetrate, aka you're going to see the blood splatter, and your body, if you hit them here, they're going to move. If you hit them here, they're going to move. If you hit them in the chest, they're going to move. Or the same in the gut, if you hit them in the back, so you in the leg, you're going to get movement, you're going to react, you're going to respond properly to how you're being hit by each and every single projectile, especially if you're being hit by an automatic. If you're shooting someone in the chest, they're not just going to stand there kind of in a static format, they're going to shuffle to each round that hits them. So if this round hits there and then the next one hits them in the chest, you're gonna get a nice little shuffle there, guys, and I'm not really feeling that at the moment. And I don't like the ragdolls. When like an NPC or a player is dying, I don't feel connected, I don't feel bonded with that moment. A person's not oozing, a person's not wheezing, and it's in most cases an immediate death, and if they don't die immediately, the way they drop to the ground just looks a bit too awkward. Sometimes I shoot them in the chest and they go down holding their leg. It just doesn't feel, there's no connection. I need that connection, guys. So that's something that I would like to see looked into. Like I said, if you're in Stanton, if you're in Power, if you're in Nyx, there's no difference between the three, guys. Being able to sense an enemy via scent, there's many ways of doing this. They've addressed this so much times in many games, where you might see a color leading to where the scent likelihood of smells coming from. So obviously taking into consideration washing your character in order to keep yourself on the radar, because you don't want what are those things called? I've got Valakars, I'm not sure if they're Valakars, but those dog thingies running up on you, and you don't want enemies sensing you out. Different ship engines create different sounds. If you tune your engine, if you replace an engine within your ship, you get different noises, you get different sounds. Same as with a car. Ingenuity, creating size 3 engines for size 1 ships. Maybe not a size 3, but something similar or compatible or equivalent. So a size 1 ship is kind of cruising around at a more efficient speed, faster, more efficient, quicker, more efficient, etc, etc, etc. Ingenuity in the market, something that I think should be considered, and I think it would be pretty darn awesome, because a little ship would now be able to jump from one end of the system to another side, or it might even be able to go through a warp hole, rather than just maneuvering about within a certain sector, which can be quite tedious and bothersome. It's nice to be able to set your sights to the horizon. So anyway, being able to get a loan is obviously important, because this helps the economy. At the moment there's no loan, everyone's rich. It's not good for any economy, but having a loan within the economy, so you can buy yourself a ship, pay your loan off with your new ship, and then start earning 100% profits, I think is a very good way for a player to get into the verse, to manage the verse, and heal a broken economy. Wear and tear on clothes and environments is very important, over time and on ships, not just via battles and stuff, but also weather-wise. Better effects. If you're flying out in space, you want to see kind of rainbow effects in regions that are very moist. If there's like a kind of like a glaze of fog or mist that goes by that's moist in space, and then you've got sunlight shining through it, you're likely going to get a color dance situation of like a rainbow, or if you're on another world, you might get that kind of rainbow effect via the clouds, and it could look very dreamy. I might do a little animation just to showcase it off a little bit, just so you know exactly what it is I'll be thinking and talking about. But seeing better visual effects would be amazing. Not just that, better sound effects. If there's someone shooting away, it's not always easy to tell exactly where that person is. I can't tell if they're 5 feet away or if they're, like half a kilometer away, as it were, or maybe like I don't know, like 40 feet away. Sometimes they're pretty far away, but it sounds like they're really close. It happened once when I was in the ASD and it almost got me killed. I think that's something that needs to be reworked a little bit, ensuring that we do know where another person is situated by the noise that they're making. So distancing is something that I would like to test out a little bit better. Environments can even buff. If you shoot fire, like an incendiary weapon underwater, is that projectile going to be as efficient or effective as if you shot it in a world? It's obviously going to be very effective. The person might set a light, but if I'm underwater and the other person's underwater or atop the planet, and I shoot them, is that incendiary bullet going to be as effective? Same as electric. If I'm in a nuclear farm plant and it's fully active and there's a lot of magnetic energy disruption going on, and then I start shooting my electric gun, is my electric gonna go towards a person, or is it gonna be distracted because of the magnetic disruption fields? These kind of things. Obviously, I guess you could even go as far as to say certain worlds might have very strong magnetospheres. Would that affect some of my electric guns? So these are things I would like to see looked into, answers I would like to hear, because I would like to have an idea of what I'm kind of looking forward for. What else do we have? How to pay workers, weight, load, work. I've covered this in one of my other videos, so I ain't gonna cover that one again. So water is very resourceful. Will it be? Not all worlds have water. Real business, real jobs, real goals. So real jobs, real business, real goals. What does that mean? Some worlds don't have water at all. Some moons, but we know that we drink water, and but I'm not sure if we're actually delivering water as a resource around the Earth. So is this something that's going to be taken into consideration at some stage? And another thing I would like to have an understanding of is like the economy, of course. If I go to Next and then I go to a certain region in Stanton, am I gonna find different pricings on different items? Because that's also very interesting, very important, very crucial, not just for a player but also for the economy of Star Citizen. When is the economy coming into Star Citizen? So realistic jobs as well as the crazy ones that we do have going on at the moment in game. I want to see chewed limbs, this is with those copians. There's an ASD mission where you got copians all over the place, but I don't feel like it's gruesome enough, because you don't really see chewed up arms and like eyeballs just left lying around. I mean, at least I don't feel like I saw any of those things. I just saw like dead bodies laying around. I don't even recall seeing much blood. Maybe there was but I don't really recall seeing anything. So I'd like to feel a little bit more immersed, is what I'm saying. So so I can tell, well, there's copians in the area because only they're this brutal. But I wasn't sure how certain people died. Were they mauled or were they shot? They're just laying there. That's something I would like to see kind of reworked a little bit how a scene plays out for a player when kind of like being situated into a certain situation that they've never really been before. Like am I able to tell what the situation is, if I'm experienced, I've dealt with copians before, or if I don't have much experience, can I still tell that it's something that's more than man or human that's obviously put these people down. Scopes, I think I've mentioned this before, scopes that can actually zoom to 20 kilometers or maybe even further. And you can toggle them, or you can look at about like 5 meters, and then you can toggle it and zoom in, not from 5 kilometers straight to 20 kilometers, not from 5 meters straight to 20 kilometers. You want to be able to go 5 meters, 10 meters, maybe you want to go 5 kilometers, maybe you want to come back to like 4.1 kilometers, so wherever you're aiming, whatever you're aiming at, you can see like as if it's as close as holding your hand in front of your face. But then once you get past the 20 kilometers, you get a 20-meter fall off every time you exceed an extra kilometer, so it makes it harder for you to keep up focus. So and 20 meters is quite a stretch. So I want personally investigate finally. I'll mention that another one. Well, I can kind of briefly cover that. So right now, like I was trying to say, I've played Star Citizen, Mass Effect, and I'm still currently going through a playthrough of that. But Mass Effect gives you a very good storyline, and you ain't got to catch anything. It's kind of just spoon-fed to you, which is awesome. It's one of my favorite gaming titles. But then you have Star Citizen. Star Citizen at the moment is coming across very much so like Mass Effect to me, which is not bad at all. But if I could pitch, which I am pitching, what I would like would be to unveil a lot of the mysteries within and about the ASD my darn self as possible. So maybe I open up a case, or maybe a case is sent to me about the ASD, and I start investigating, and I do 1 or 2 missions that maybe I do a mission that's about the Copians, and then I say this is a bit boring, so maybe I quit while I'm doing the mission, or maybe I quit after I do the mission because I say it's not really engaging enough. I prefer dogfighting, so I leave. But maybe I kind of log the mission now for another player. Another player comes along, he sees what I've logged, and he says, well, this looks slightly interesting, I could do this, earn a little buck. He's obviously become a detective. You don't just pick the job up. Obviously you gotta have a profession, and the profession is a detective. You become a detective, you go and you start investigating the ASD, and you see, oh yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on here. They're doing scientific expeditions. This person says they're doing scientific expeditions. The other person just figured the mission was boring. Science expedition means that they're running tests, and they're creating biological weapons, as it were, organic weapons. So his interest keeps him involved in the investigation, rather than just saying, all right, now you've done this mission, you do this mission, and now you do this mission, and then it's going to lead you here, it's going to lead you here, because that's kind of not detective work. It's not really a mission. You're given a story and you're just running through it's like reading a book, but instead of just reading, you're actively moving through the book. So I would like to have a little bit more freedom within the verse. I think that would be a good way to go, my darn self. The Auroras are one of the favorite ships in the game. My favorite ships is small. The Aurora, I think I mentioned this in one of my previous uploads, recent. The Aurora should only really be able to jump from Crusader to Arc, CRU-01, if you ask me. All those little ships, because if you ask me, it kind of doesn't make sense them jumping far distances. It kind of defeats the purpose of fuel tanks and fuel and big ships, getting around. Now, so if you ask me, maybe people like it the way how it is. If you ask me, it gives people a reason to either want to invest into something magnificent like an engine that's overpowered. Obviously an overpowered engine comes with its side effects, aka likelihood there would be no side deaths, soft deaths rather. If your engine's got damage, it'll probably kind of go into like a reaction mode, completely explode, so you die immediately and lose everything in your ship. Otherwise, you go out and you buy a bigger ship. Would a wormhole not crush an aurora? That bit we can say for another time. Maybe some wormholes. That bit we'll save. Orbit implanted. Well, maybe. So you got wormholes. Currently, each wormhole technically carries every vessel that goes to it. Ironically, I've taken my Aurora to a wormhole, to Pyro. It didn't work. The rings didn't even show up, but anytime I use any other ship, it works. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's actually perfect, but I have a feeling it's a bug, and someone told me that it was a bug. Anywho, I think what would be a lot more interesting, now it's just my own assumption, would be having wormholes that only small ships can traverse through, because of science. So once a small ship goes through, it can travel huge distances in a very short amount of time, and it can come back, which means they can do like cargo missions, etc, etc, etc. Big ships can't go through this wormhole for whatever reason. They have to take the long way around. Whatever cargo's on the other side obviously is very rewarding. This to me, I think it's just a little bit more random and a little bit more fun, because it's a catch that kind of, if you ask me, makes a little bit more sense. The big ships, it will take in real time about a year, maybe 2 years to fly to the same destination that these little ships go to and take the same way back. So totally in 4 years or 2 years. Obviously along your way you're making your money, you're doing your escapades, pathfinder, going out on expeditions. These words actually make a little bit more sense when you think about it this way. But once you reach the other end, you're able to now fill your ship up with all this valuable cargo, and then you make that other 2-year journey back, which the other 2-year journey back probably ain't going to be so profitable, because you're likely going to be stacked to the brim with, unless you don't stack yourself to the brim with this valuable resource, and so that you can still make money on the way back to refuel your ship and kind of restock it with ammo or whatever. That's what I was thinking. That would actually be a good idea. So little ships can't go through, can't always go through wormholes that big ships can go through, and big ships can't go through some wormholes that little ships can slip through. Maybe some wormholes should just be like small enough, just big enough for small ships to go through. That would be quite interesting. But that up for debate. Orbiting planets, moons, realistic rotations for seasons. So that's another thing I would like to test. Not just seasons and crop and stuff like this, which is awesome, but I would prefer to see orbiting planets and worlds and proper rotations, not the sun orbiting and rotating, but planets orbiting and rotating around the star, quite normally. The same with asteroids and meteors. I think I heard that this was something that was going to come in way back in the 3.6 days, somewhere back there. But it was mentioned once and I've never heard of it again. Better survival aspects crafting campfires, cooking real foods, putting up tents, and trying to purify water for drinking. Cutting down trees and building cabins and homes. You can even go further: central heating, running electric, central heating, all this stuff, water for your homes. All this stuff is very beneficial and crucial. It comes under the simulator scheme, if you ask me. Why is this beneficial and crucial? The reason why this is beneficial and crucial is because a gamer or player in game is not necessarily just playing, but they can now say, well, if I come out of the game world, I now know how to build a house. I can now bricklay, or I can plaster, or I can run electrics, or I can lay the wood. I can't remember the name now of the wood layers, but you got laying wood, and you can plumb in a boiler maybe. So taking all these things into consideration, real trades of the art, as it were, not only respecting tradesmen, but also teaching people how to kind of like cater for themselves. So that, well, I don't know how to start a campfire. I would love to know how to start a campfire. I've never been camping. I would love to go camping. And fishing is also something that I've never done. So I don't know how to fish, but learning how to do it virtually would also be pretty darn awesome. There's also a lot of simulators out there that can teach you realistically how to drive a vehicle, a car. So if I can learn how to do that in a simulation, and I believe, if not yet, then it will be coming in at some stage, likely in the future, where you'll be able to pass your driving license via a simulator. Technically, which I think, rather than actually going out on the main road, because you can pass it using it, but obviously your instructor, as it were, kind of like checks you out and says, yeah, you know how to drive maybe, but simulators can be a nice way to not only practice, but kind of like professionally keep yourself in gear. So I would like to learn how to do fishing, and start a campfire and put up a tent. All these things I know how to put up a tent, but putting up a tent and living out in the wilderness, as it were, I think would be a good way to kind of present kind of like living out in space to players, and that would also be something fun to test. Not just tents and stuff, but the environments. Learn how to survive in the environments of space. Blueprints, I don't think myself are necessarily a good idea, but that's obviously something that's been put in, and I think because it's been put in, it should stay. As bad an idea as I personally think it is, blueprints defeat the purpose of gameplay. So as to why would you need to buy a better ship or even join an org? The purpose of org should be to help new players into the verse get a step up a little quicker, and even be granted with a ship in lucky cases, and not necessarily needing to have to pledge for a ship, but joining an org to potentially get a ship, but only the game itself. So you only need to buy the game itself. More fun would be you fly to a world where compounds are formulated in rock, mass, or earth. You mine it and maybe even refine it in order to have your ship upgraded, either done manually or via shipping engineering services. This would more be likened to the armor atop of your ship, which would then repaint the original skin or new decal or player choosing. So that actually is quite interesting. So I would actually prefer, rather than blueprints, going out there salvaging, as it were, or scavenging ships, finding down ship, taking resources, bringing it back to my garage, as it were, and manually trying to repair or upgrade my ship that way. So in game, I'd actually get myself my ship's manual, and so I could repair my engines or fine tune them, or my shields. Have it would almost fall under engineering, rather than blueprint. Blueprint seems a bit too quick, a bit too skitty, but you kind of want to get a bit greasy, like a real kind of I guess like you take your car to the garage, and so you kind of want to take your ship to the garage, okay? Ironically, I can't remember the name of the people that work on your car, but that's essentially what you become when you start working on your ship. And if you don't know how to do it, or you ain't got time to read the manual in order to fix your ship or tune it up, then you take your ship to the shop, or to the engineering service, whatever, and then you say, I want my ship to be fine-tuned, and then you give them the list of what you want done, and they either tell you they can do it or they can't, depending on the system that you're in as well. You would expect that certain systems that are running very finely economically are more than likely able to give you what you want, rather than going to a place like Grimhex or Nyx, where they're likely going to take parts from your ship and replace it with battered parts. So I would prefer that route than blueprints, is my point here. But again, up for debate. Player customization needs to be a lot better too. We have height, build, attitude, voice, hair, personality, likes, taste, goals, etc., etc. My fave foods can be likened to a certain taste, which delivers me the option to choose from a list of foods in real life I like and dislike, as the game tries its best to decipher what kinds of foods my character may like or dislike in the verse, both human and alien. So not just human food, but alien food. How it does so is by deciphering what I like in real life. Maybe I like salty foods, or maybe I like fresh foods, or maybe I like fruits. So then it takes a load of foods that I like, and then with AI, not script, it kind of presents to me an option. It says, or a few choices. It says, do you like this kind of food? Do you like this kind of food? Do you like this kind of food? Taking into consideration all the things I told it what I do like and what I don't like. So it says to itself, okay, let me see what he likes and let me see what he doesn't. And I say yes, yes, yes. So it tries to determine, it tries to, kind of like predict what I'm likely to like. And when I give it my feedback, it kind of makes an ultimatum. So it says, okay, so you like these foods, I suggested these foods, and out of these foods you selected only so few of them, which confirms that these are the kind of foods you like. Maybe it gives you one more test and it checks to see what kind of foods you like out of its second options. Maybe you like more than less this time than previously, where you like maybe half or less over more that was presented onto you. What this information concludes is the fact that as you now start playing through the verse, you realistically eat the foods that you like in real life, human foods, but now you can also kind of predict what kind of foods alien foods you're likely to like also. So there's obviously going to be things that you do like, and there's going to be things that you don't like. So the AI tries to determine what those foods you don't like are to prevent you from eating them in the verse. So that's what this is covering. This is another mechanic that I would like to see, not just in Sausage, but more gaming content titles out there on the market selling for premium prices. Because a lot of stuff that they put out there, whether it's survival or whether action or whatever the hell it is, none of them prevent this kind of technology, this mechanic, which means there's no real upgrade to how we approach gaming. You go out, you buy yourself the latest GPUs, CPUs, motherboards, PSUs, and memory sticks and storage devices, but in return, it doesn't really make any sense because it's the same kind of game that you've been playing for the last 12 years, only it was released in a later date. So saying next gen doesn't make sense unless we actually focus on the next gen style approach, guys. Otherwise, buying next gen devices and systems just don't make no sense. Obviously, as well, customization. Our hair grows differently, our skin tone is different, our eyes, nose, mouth, teeth, even the way we walk, and how our body shapes are. I might stand a little bit like this, a little bit lame, I might have a high pitched voice, a low pitched voice, a deep voice. It could be anything. I would like to see these things kind of pitched onto us as well. If I'm playing like Squadron 42 set to be coming out, I don't want to be playing as some random character. I would like my character to sound as much like me as possible, so AI can easily generate a voice to sound exactly like a certain individual. So there's no reason for this technology not to be used. We know NVIDIA has wonderful kind of AI integrated technology. There's amazing AI technology out there that can replicate voices, that can video feed and do voices, etc, etc, etc. So there's no reason to be skitting out this kind of stuff, guys. So anyway, Medgel players, obviously Medgel is a bit expensive. At first I was against it, but now I'm totally for it, especially once considering ships being insurable. You want insurance on your ship. If we're not insuring our ships, then Medigel kind of doesn't make sense, because the likelihood you're going to really want to store in your Medigel in your ship. If you store your Medigel in your ship and then your ship damages, you spend it costs about 100,000. Say you buy 10 of them, you apparently bought $1 million Medigel worth of Medigel, and that's $1 million worth of Medigel down the drain simply because you damaged your ship. So there's no point unless obviously ship insurance. So obviously respawn. Once the economy picks up, lives and souls should have a dynamic meaning as realistic as possible. Useless. There is a Medicenter NPC should not be able to respawn, but should be killed eternally. The death should affect expanding the economy. Right, so we're going for death in game. So if I kill an NPC, I keep calling this thing the shard, but I don't think it's the shard. But it's an active, functional, fluctuating, active force of what's happening in the verse, I believe. What do I mean? You can easily track NPCs and players on their active duty. If an NPC is traveling to Crusader from Nyx, you can see what that character's holding aboard the ship. I'm not sure if we're actually going to be like active in the verse, or if we go into like a spectator style mode, and you can actually see information, value, how much. I'm not sure if it's actually this deep, but I've seen something kind of like indicating that this is the kind of technology that we're likely going to see within Star Citizen, where you can actually see the value of maybe even star systems, a value of and you can see the active duty of every single soul within a star system moving around. And I think that's a good technology if I've seen that information for this title, and my information is correct. If my information is correct, I think that's a good mechanic that will be coming into the game, because I think that's pretty crucial, very crucial. The more information you have, the better it is. You can never have too much information within titles such as these. You want as much as you can have. Taking that into consideration, the expanding economy is something that's been taken into consideration. So that's something that I'm looking forward to, guys. Cargo hauling, players should be given ships. Oh yeah. So with cargo hauling, players should be given. There should be a way where companies give players ships. So like let's just say Covalex is a company and they're into cargo. They employ a member of staff, and this member of staff is like, let's say it's a newbie into the verse, just bought the game but didn't buy a ship, and he gets employed by Covalex. Let's just say it's Covalex. And then Covalex says, right, we do cargo, and we need someone to ship cargo from here to there on a timely rota, and that's going to be your job. So the person says, yes, I'll do it. So they say, okay, we're going to give you a ship to do that. This ship's going to be insured, and it can guarantee you to carry this information, this cargo route from here to there, and etc. And you're going to be paid. Person is obviously paid within a certain bracket. I think that would be a good way to go. So cargo hauling, players should be given a ship to haul SCU. The ship would be covered with insurance, including SCU. So you ain't got to buy the SCU. The SCUs, technically, when they're given to you, all you're doing is delivering. You're just a delivery boy. The SCU, which the player, if caught in an accident, could immediately be covered by the company for this via insurance. Such a player would be paid the basic wage as what is currently in game. So currently in game, running cargo is a basic wage, if you ask me. A lot of this stuff should be a hell of a lot more rewarding, but it's not. However, another player with his own ship would have to pay for his own insurance by his own insurance company. So obviously you pay an insurance company, you get insured, you have your own ship, now your ship's insured. You go to somewhere like the same company, Covalex, and you say, right, I've got my ship, I need to use it to, I can use it to, do, some tasks for you. They say, right, we've got a whole bunch of cargo that we need to get sent over there. Can you do that for us? You say, yes, you do it. They ain't got to worry about your insurance. They ain't got to worry about jack crap. So you get paid damn near 100% of your duty, your worth. So where the person before was given the ship and all this stuff and petted as it were, but he's paid maybe 30,000, 60,000, maybe 120,000. You come and you're doing everything as raw as it gets. You get paid 500,000. Maybe you want to flip that. Maybe the person on the company gets paid more than the person with his own ship. Maybe different companies do different things. So these are things that I would like to see a little bit more diversity with how we approach payment, wages, business, etc., 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 transactions. Selling in bulk, guys. I've already released a video on that one. That's something that needs to be looked into. I don't like selling 1x1 and 2x2s. I want an easier way to sell in bulk, and the best way to do it would be in your hangars with your storage systems. Anyway, guys, it's your boy Patient. I hope you guys will be season. If you did need those bombs, those likes, and those comments down below, and if you have any queries, guys,